Today we be shrimping. World, how's it going? So today I wanted to share and show you guys how I actually set up a lot of my shrimp tanks. Other ways you can set them up as well. And just parameters, we're talking about tank sizes, we're talking about substrate, we're talking about what types and all kinds of stuff in this video, so let's do it. So you may be asking yourself, who is this guy and who is he to tell me how to keep shrimp or to set up a tank? Now, some of you guys who are already subscribed to me know that I've been keeping shrimp for a long time, over 10 years plus, and actually do have some international awards on my resume. So I hope you guys learned something from this. Alright, so first thing first, it's really important to have the right type of shrimp for your water. Saying this, you want to work with the water you have. And the reason why I recommend this is when you come to battling your parameters and trying to dial in something that you don't normally have, it can leave room for error, whether it be with fish or shrimp. So I don't recommend it, but you can do it. Many people do it. I've seen people keep Neocaridina types and Caridina types together. Usually one will breed over the other, depending on where the parameters sway to. Now, saying this, there's two types of shrimp out there. There's Neocaridina and then there's Caridina. Neocaridina neos, which are like your cherries, your blue dreams, your black rose, your oranges. For some reason, some people call them orange bees. They are all the same when it comes to parameters. They love their hard water. They love their GH. They don't mind KH. TDS 250 plus. Mine's around 400. pH is 8.6 around me. I mean, they like 7 and above. And as far as Caridinas, they like the soft water. Now, there's a few different types of Caridinas. There's crystals, there's bees, there's paracaradinas, there's sulawesi shrimps, there's tigers, and they all prefer soft water, lower pH, like 6 to 7, sometimes even lower, and often require special substrate just to buffer the water to keep it that low. They don't like KH so much. They usually prefer a TDS around 100, 200 or so. I've kept them even lower. The only type of Caridina that is different as far as these parameters are tigers. They're kind of in between the crystals and the Neocaridinas. They like more of a mid in between range, which is the reason why you can see people keeping tigers with both bees and neos. Now, you can keep neos and Caridinas together, but it can get really tricky. I keep some Caridinas. I specialize mostly in Neocaridinas, but the way I keep my Caridina is a little more unorthodox. So here you can see a rack of 40 gallons. These are all 10s. These are all 20s. That's a 75. But my favorite size is the 40-gallon breeders. And since these take up a lot of room, and they're not always practical, my other favorite size, if I don't have the room for 40s or I want to keep more, are 20 longs. As you can see here, they've been getting nice and matured. They're actually ready for some shrimp. Biggest reason why I like these 20 longs for shrimp is they have more surface area compared to something like a 20 high where it's got more water volume. That's better for fish. When it comes to shrimp, it's better to have the actual surface area. And then 10 gallons are definitely a necessity when it comes to breeding out lineage and putting out culls, picking your best one, especially like blue dream lines, black rose lines. They can throw all kinds of different stuff, and if you want to try to straighten them out, it'll take lots of tanks to do so. Which I could get into culling right now, but I think I'll leave that for a separate video on how I cull, because that can take up a little more time too. And yeah, I'll make another video for that. Now, I keep my shrimp on quite a few different substrates here. This is Carib Sea natural white sand that I use. I like that for blues the reason why I use sand on some is because of the color contrast. So I use for blues and black. Ooh, there's a nice blue right there. As you can see here, the blues pop off the white substrate a lot better. Now if this was black, which I can show you the... See here on the black substrate, they blend in a lot more. They're a lot harder to see. And a big reason why I like to see them better is for culling purposes too. You can see better on how the line's really going and all that stuff, which I'll get into more into the culling video. Now as far as other color types like red, yellow, snowballs, oranges, I like the darker substrate because it'll show their colors much better and be better for culling and keeping. The substrate I use here is Eco Complete. As many of you guys who follow me know, it's definitely my favorite. The oranges, they can be kept on sand or black. They look good either way. And this also goes with a lot of Caridina types. Now I do have some crystal reds. You can see that one's actually buried up there. I keep them on Eco Complete, which I shouldn't be keeping on Eco Complete. You can see they're molting. And they have had babies before. I have had them breed out. But they actually prefer, especially Taiwan bees, they prefer a more acidic substrate. Which there's a few types of substrates you can get out there on the market. Brightwell, ADA soil, fluval stratum, and some others that hold their acidity. The thing is, you got to actually, man, there's quite a few buried ones in here. You got to actually change out the substrate every now and then because the substrate will lose its punch, which can be real detrimental if you don't catch it in time. And once again, these guys prefer softer water over hard water like the Neocaridinas. Now, say you don't like to look at either of those substrates, you don't even have to use those. You can also use this. Some people, I've used bare bottom before, they tend to not care for it as much and breed out as much because they can't really hang on or get onto the glass very well, and it causes problems for them in the long run. But some people do, they keep them on glass and it works for them, but it helps to have plants in there. But you can also just stick rocks in it. So say you had a tank like this where it's just a bunch of rock pebbles, no special substrate or anything. I could easily throw either type of shrimp in there and be alright with keeping them. Now as we move on from substrate, let's talk about air stones, air filtration. Now there's many ways to do this. I use these sponge filters, which aren't really necessary. Could just use the air stone. And I have a deflector that kind of keeps the bubbles off, but that's a whole nother story as well. And really, as you can see from this tank here, you don't even need to run air. This air line hasn't been ran for months, mainly due because it's rimless. And in the spot it's in my office, and it was getting in between the tanks because of the splatter, because I don't have one of the deli cup lids on it anymore, but I decided to just leave it off. As you can see here, plenty of shrimp breeding. There's a lot of wilds going on in there, mixture of stuff, and they all do fine without any air stone, without air filter, without anything. Like these Neocaridina species, I've seen them live in filters, and that could go along with Caridina types too as far as the oxygenation of the water. But say you do want a filter on it, like a hang on the back or say a canister filter or something, there are things you can put on the intakes. That's a media mesh bag right there. And then this is a stainless steel mesh thing. That's actually for my water going in. But you can get them to fit the canister filters and the hang on the backs as well. They also make foam covers, kind of like this, and media socks as well that go on the end. As far as the metal stainless steel mesh ones, you can get them in a lower profile too. Those are actually kind of bulkier ones. I have one, I just can't find it to show you guys. There's a reason why I use this type for that, but you guys will see that in the water change video. Alright, so now we've got substrate covered, we got the filtration covered, we got the type of water covered. There's one other thing I would like to add. A lot of people like to use moss, which it's not necessary. You can keep lots of other plant types as well. This is actually pearlweed, which works great, allows more surface area. I even have some tanks with guppy grass, which you can't even see the shrimp in there. So that could be the only issue with guppy grass, but as soon as I pull it out, they would all come out. Same with the pearlweed too. If it was moss, it'd be easier because they're on the bottom. And then you can have like crypts, stem plants as you've seen in some of these. But you see this tank's covered in cryptudori. No moss or anything like that. It's kind of a dark tank because it is so thick with the crypts. If you notice, there's a lot of starburst endlers in here. It's just flooded with endler fish. But believe it or not, there are shrimp that live in here. So you can see there's actually a shrimp in there with all these endlers as they're darting by. But I've actually kept, these guys have been coexisting for about 5 years plus. And the average lifespan of shrimp is actually only a couple years. So I know they've been breeding out in there, even with all those endlers. Which brings me back to the point of having covered everything that is needed in the tank. These rock piles are kind of a big necessity. They create a nursery and a safe haven for shrimp. They really love rock piles. It helps with keeping with fish, all that stuff. And I got another video about making safe havens for shrimp and all that goes in more detail over it, which I'll pin down in the comments below. A link to that video that describes it a little more. I'm actually getting ready to do that to all these 20 longs here so I can start moving shrimp and endlers and stuff in. But besides that, when it comes to keeping your tanks and actually setting up what's in them, it's pretty versatile for what you can do. Like, there's really no limits. You can use pretty much any type of plant you want. You can use those many types of substrates, like so many types of substrate. But like, say you use that acidic substrate for Neocaridina, you're not going to have luck. So you really want to match the shrimp in with the right parameters. So keep that in mind. If you got an active substrate, know what kind of activity that substrate gives you. Now, as far as changing water, now I got that new water change system, as you guys seen, has the stainless steel mesh intakes on it, so I don't really have to worry about sucking them out. What I used to use though is just a regular old hose to siphon water out. Now the thing with shrimp is they don't cover a lot of the water volume and tend to stay low or towards the edges and stuff like that. So really, I would very rarely ever put a guard on this and just pull the water out for my bigger tank. Now say you did have a 10-gallon just full of babies, really hard to get around with. You can use these items that I mentioned before. Stick them on the end of one of these intakes and then make sure you got a hose or an intake that'll fit each other. Often these intakes will fit, I think this is like a 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch, I can't remember, but they usually fit in pretty well. Now as far as shrimp genetics and stuff like that, how Neocaridinas, they can all be the same with the care, but the genetics aren't all the same. That'll be another video I'll do for you guys later down the road with lineage and culling and stuff like that. There is one other thing I want to show you guys. Now, there are a lot of foods out there that are for shrimp. Specialty foods, all kinds of stuff. What many people ask me this too, and this is why I'm adding this into the video. I'm not sponsored by these guys, or I get any money from them, or don't even sell their product or anything like that. But Tetra colored tropical granules is what I feed all my shrimp, fish, everything. And they love it. I love it as well because it's orange. I can tell if I'm over or under feeding, which is really important with shrimp. Can go cannibal, like in this clip. And also if you don't feed them enough. And if you're overfeeding them, sometimes with some foods it can be hard to tell if you are overfeeding them. That's why I like the orange stuff, works great. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that and maybe have learned something. I'm trying to hurry up, get this thing shot, edited, uploaded and everything in like 4 or 5 hours just so I can get this video out for you guys together today. But I think I touched on most of the important subjects when it comes to actually and then more when it comes to setting up a shrimp tank. And like I mentioned before, we'll get into culling and genetics a little more down the road in another video. So if you liked it, subscribe, share, all that stuff. This hobby's growing fast, and the more people we have in it, the better. It's fun to do. It's very peaceful. It's very zenful. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Until next time, peace. And as always, feel free to ask me questions in the comment. I try to get to all your guys' comments. Whether it may take me a day or two, I will get to them. Or you're always invited to the Friday night Q&A live streams we do every Friday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time.